And we are back, and we just finished 2011's Attack the Block, written and directed by Joe Cornish. This is playing on Hulu, Prime, and Pluto TV with commercials. We saw it on Prime, though, right?
Yeah. Free on Prime.
Wait, how come it says, like, it's free on Prime? Like, how come it says it's, like, included on Prime, but it says it costs, like, $3.99 on Prime Video, which is, like, the same thing?
I think it's to buy or rent.
Yeah, you could also rent it, but you might as well just watch it for free if you have Prime membership.
Membership, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
We have Prime membership, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Because we order a lot of crap from Amazon.
I don't know how we've ever been in a recession. All right. Well, this is the story of a young gang of hooligans in South London, led by Moses.
Hooligans, Mom.
Yes.
It's just a teenage gang.
Yes. Teenagers being rotten. Led by Moses, played by the always fabulous, who I feel like we've been watching a lot of, John Boyega.
We see a lot of John Boyega movies.
You know, and I'm not sad about that.
No,
I'm not sad about that at all. He is very
much
entertaining.
Good in everything he's in.
Yeah, even when he's doing small bits like The Woman King, we saw him in that. Yeah. He broke my heart in Breaking. I still think about that film. And of course, we recently watched They Cloned Tyrone, which is also on Prime, right? Or is that Netflix? No, that's Netflix.
Netflix.
That was on Netflix.
Yeah, and that's also highly, highly recommended by us. But I digress. This is the story of 5 young men in a little gang who start the evening by mugging Sam.
Mugging this poor lady.
Yeah.
Poor nurse lady.
Young nurse just trying to make her way home, gets robbed.
Played by the previous doctor, Jodie Whittaker.
And at the height of the robbery, a meteor hits a car right there. And hijinks ensue.
And quote unquote firework hit the car.
Yes. Because nobody knew what the hell was going on at first. But this is I'm you know what? People talk about Attack the Block. People say that it's great, and it is. I'm not going to deviate from that. But I also feel like this movie gets lost in the shuffle. Like, this is, to me, an underappreciated film.
Well, it's an English movie. I don't think, did this ever get released wide in the United States at all?
Not wide, no.
It was probably in like small, boutique theaters.
Yeah.
If it was playing anywhere. So most people's experience with this is probably either the DVD market, because, it came out in 2011. Or in demand or something like that. Or they just saw it on cable every once in a while.
And that's where we saw it. We didn't see this in the theater. Yeah. I think originally we saw it on cable. It's such a shame, too, because this is a box office flop, unfortunately. The projected budget on this was $13 million. Gross worldwide is only $6 million. And yet there's talk.
That's a real shame.
Yeah, it is a real shame.
It is a really good movie.
It's a fantastic movie.
There's talk of a sequel?
There's talk of a sequel. How did you know? Get out of my head.
Because I looked up one of the characters and then I saw, is there going to be a sequel? That's one of the follow-up questions.
Well, I think with the writer's strike, I think that's going to be on the back burner for a bit. But
wait, what was? Oh, wait, this was released in 2011.
2011. So over 10 years.
It's as old as you.
It's as old as you, Olive G.
Almost.
It is as old as you. Almost.
You said it was 10 years old.
No. It's over 10 years old.
Oh,
it's over 10 years old. Old.
I'm over 10 years old.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
It's going to be 12 years old.
Yes, own it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to go around the table and get impressions. I'm going to start with you, Olive G. I like sitting next to you because much like me, you're a very unapologetic viewer, and when the first jump scare happens, I felt it.
Olivia,
even though I'd seen this film before,
so hard when she gets
jumped so high. Yeah.
Like, remember when we were at IHOP and I was watching that?
Oh yeah, you were watching some weird video and then there was a jump scare. I saw the jump scare on her phone screen and she lynched.
I was like, what is going on? The two of them were sitting across from me, and of course, electronics, right? So she's watching something, and I think I was talking to you, and all of a sudden she was like, And we both, like, we paused for a second, and then she started hysterical laughing, and I started hysterical laughing. And then she kind of got in on the joke, too. But, yeah. What did you think of the film, Olive G?
I thought this was great. I loved it.
It is highly, highly, highly entertaining. Did you have a favorite character?
I mean, there are a lot of like favorite characters. Like those kids were like great. They were smart.
Probs
What?
and Mayhem.
Probs and Mayhem.
Yeah.
They were freaking
I love
cute.
how they get their recognition at the end when
Yeah.
the
By
kids like,
Biggz.
Probs and Mayhem. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just like,
yeah.
yeah.
Sort of like
Star
Star-Lord.
Lord. Yeah, exactly. That's how you do it.
It's so well
You
done.
earned that name.
Yeah, and it's so funny because it's like they're little kids, but
Yeah.
they're
And
ballers.
they set that thing on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was impressive.
That was a good plan. Like I would never. I mean, what did he say? He was 9.
Yeah, he was like 9 and a
Sam was like,
half.
she was like, were you 6? And he's
She's
like 9.
You don't even look 6, and he's like, I'm 9 and a half.
Everyone's a baby here. I mean, John Boyega is so young.
Everybody's
so young.
super young.
Yeah. Even Nick Frost with his greasy long hair.
Nick Frost always looks
Like Nick
probably
Frost.
10 years older than he actually is because he's a heavy guy.
But still so good. Did you have a favorite scene, Olive J?
I don't know. Like there are a lot of good scenes.
What scared you? What got you the most?
Wasn't that scene where Moses is looking at the door? I think I remember you like flying into the air when that happened.
Yeah. That scared me.
You weren't scared when they do the outside shot of all the creatures going up?
Climbing up the outside of the
That was
building?
cool looking.
It
Yeah,
was
it
cool
was
looking.
cool looking, but like I wasn't that scared.
Olivia gets more freaked out by jump scares, I feel
Yeah.
like.
Jump scares are horrifying.
Yes, yes. And when the thing goes into the elevator with, what is it, hi-hat?
Hi-hats.
And
yeah.
the 2 guys.
And the 2 henchmen.
Where is that thing though? Like, did they escape?
He
Like,
killed it.
No, hi-hats killed it.
Yeah, but
But,
the
like-
thing also killed the other 2 guys.
but like, where was the body? Because I didn't.
It was on
see.
the
was in-
floor was a mess.
Mess,
It was
yeah.
just
Yeah.
a mangled pile of body parts there.
Yeah,
like
blood.
Like I saw the 2 guys, but I didn't see the thing.
I didn't see it either, but
Yeah.
I'm not surprised because.
But it's implied that
Yeah.
because he's covered in just goo. Right,
yeah,
when he
and
leaves.
blood.
Yeah.
If he wouldn't be standing if that thing was still alive, so he had to have killed it.
And his priorities were all stupid.
Oh God! Like
He's
he
like,
was
this is
literally-
my block.
This is my block.
He was
I'm like,
beefing
dude.
with a friggin' 15-year-old when there were aliens around.
Yeah.
Yeah, he saw them and he was still shooting at that
It ate
guy.
his friend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
they
ate
ate his friend, and he still came after Moses instead.
Yeah, ridiculous.
What a
Because
dumbass.
he crashed into his car or something. He didn't even see him at
Yeah,
first.
yeah. It was so. It's
Stinky,
funny. I mean,
bro.
obviously, it has nothing to do with it, but his character sort of reminded me of Omar from The Wire.
Hi-hats?
Was it?
Hi-hats?
No,
No.
not Omar. Who's the other one?
Marlo, you think?
Marlo.
The guy who was
Yeah, at
just
the
like,
end, who couldn't give up that
couldn't,
life.
couldn't give up the life. Yeah.
Yeah,
He left like the high-class party to go take
to go
someone's
back
corner.
to his corner. Yeah, yeah, like that whole kind of mode
mentality yeah.
of living. Yeah, reminded me of that. How he would never. He was totally gonna die in the block.
Yeah.
He wasn't gonna ever amount to anything.
Just needed to prove how hard he was.
Yeah. Gee, what'd you think of the film?
I thought it was great. It was fun.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite character?
Pest was my favorite.
Pest was hilarious. Did you have a favorite scene?
I liked all the scenes where Pest was trying to like hit on the nurse. Those were so funny.
Yeah.
I also liked all the shots with the monsters running around because they looked good. They were
Yeah,
cool
you
looking.
know-
Interesting.
It's funny because we live in a time where everything is so CG saturated. I feel like it's easier to do CG at this point. I'm sure it's still expensive, but it's still easier than doing something on a grand scale like a Fury Road where there's the practicalness, or even like a Pan's Labyrinth. I mean, you have the effects, but you also have a lot of practical stuff. And that's where the beauty of those kind of movies lie. And I think here too, obviously those things don't exist in the real world, but the way they're handled is really interesting because it's like, I never felt like you bring this up a lot. Like I never felt taken out of the story. Like to me, it felt like they were there.
Yeah, I mean, they did an excellent job with these things. You could tell that this is not the high budget movie
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
But they made do with what they had, and they did it in such a clever way with the fact that these creatures were sort of like that Vanta black where no light escapes their fur. So they're just...
when that kid put his hand on it, it looked like it disappeared.
Yeah.
Remember how like he's just like the thing's like blacker than my cousin.
He said it was blacker than his cousin. I mean, yeah, like kind of what G said. When he touches it, it almost felt like a big ink stain on the floor.
Yeah, or basically just a void of nothingness.
Yes.
And the only thing you see is their teeth. That's it. And they
That
just
kind
have
of looks like their eyeballs, but like when they open their mouths, like you can see
that was the thing that was funny because they were like, look, there's eyes. You see the eyes, and they're like, no, those ain't eyes.
Yeah.
And then when they open their mouth, and it's just like teeth upon teeth upon teeth.
Yeah.
So they did an excellent job, and I mean, you could. It's clearly like a guy in like a monkey costume with some sort
a
of
weird kind of monkey
elongated
costume.
arms to help them move properly. But the fact that they did move in such a weird alien way totally helped.
Yeah, and added to the whole like tension of like that scene where you see Moses running and all of a sudden there's like a pack of them.
Yeah,
like,
there's just a horde of those things.
Yeah.
That was really cool. I love the way those things looked, and it's really just a simple, great effect.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably it probably was like some fuzzy suit that they just used After Effects to remove whatever color it was.
Thank God they didn't use garbage bags like David Lynch and do.
Well, no, I think those were actual body bags.
Oh, were they?
Yeah. And they were just burning. They were burning tires to make black smoke.
Jeez, talk about a horrible
Patrick Stewart's
condition.
practically dying. You got to get the scene.
Yeah.
English actor.
There you go. So
And speaking of English actors, obviously everybody in this film is
British, yes.
British to the point where you may have trouble understanding what they're saying at various points.
There is a lot of British slang going on. But I think you quickly can.
You pick it up. I mean, it's not like that crazy apples and pears sort of thing where they're making like little poems instead of saying the words. But there were parts where I was just like, what are they saying?
I never got that. I remember you guys were like kind of reluctant to show us this movie because you didn't think we'd understand it. But I didn't like at any part. I wasn't like, what are they saying?
I feel like too, growing up, I don't know that you and I as viewers specifically looked for British stories. And I think now because of streaming, you have access to all these stories. Like, again, I'm going to shout it out, Rylane, right? Like that's a movie set in England in like the thick of like West Indian British culture.
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up like loving British comedies and stuff, but it's completely different because they are speaking the Queen's English and everything is enunciated.
Yeah. Well, it's not always so posh because these are like lower class.
Right, that's
kids,
what I mean.
Right?
You never really got this. If you ever got like the slang, it was just basically like, "Oh, hey, governor," like that sort of stuff. But it's still, for the most part, 99% of what they're saying, it makes total sense.
Sure.
A lot of times, like films like this, they'll actually be saying stuff where it's sort of like you don't really know. Like, I mean, you sort of glean it. You pick it up.
Yeah.
Like they kept saying truth. Things
and
like
fam.
that. Fam, truth. Yeah.
Which I think has bled into like current vernacular because I hear that a lot too. So the other thing I wanted to, so a couple of things here. I think just really, really interesting, fun, tight script.
Yeah.
I mean, this not a long movie, yet just from where it starts to where it ends, it is quite the storytelling experience. And I feel like it's the kind of movie that really brings you in because, again, because of the British slang, you kind of have to pay attention to understand what's going on. But I think also the uniqueness of the situations, you don't really get a plethora of like invasion stories. If anything, the du jour thing is either vampires or zombies, I feel like. So I feel like we're inundated with those kind of stories. But as far as like alien invasions, I think the last thing we saw maybe, and it's not really prevalent, is like the Vast of Night. Like that's the last time I feel like we've encountered an alien invasion. I mean, although you and I talked about the Kevin Dillon Blob movie.
Yeah, I wish that was streaming somewhere.
I wish that was streaming somewhere too. Yeah, we gotta just rent it, I think, at this point. But anyway, so I think, at least to me, I feel like this movie is a great example of sci-fi.
Yes.
But it's also a really great example of social commentary, because you definitely see it in this film. You see it in the young group of teenagers that are like in this gang, right? And I think one of my most favorite scenes is when, towards the end, when Sam is going to help Moses, and she goes into his apartment and she sees how he lives.
Yeah.
And she gets an idea of his backstory.
Yeah.
So now she kind of, because prior to this, he was just some scumbag who mugs her.
Yeah.
But then he's a person with a name. He's a person with a face. And I love at the end when she says, "Oh no, I know him. He's my neighbor."
Yeah.
That to me was the most beautiful part of this film. The fact that even when we're separated from each other, we're still on this crazy roller coaster of a ride on this crazy planet. And yet some of us are lucky to make that connection, to meet other people and truly understand the shoes that they walk in. It as a mother, right? To me, when she says to him, "How old are you?" and he says 15, and she takes a beat, right? Because her 15 is probably not his 15. His life as a young black male is obviously not her experience. And there's that other scene where the boys go and meet the girls, and one of the girls basically was like, "Well, you're just going to get arrested. Even if you've not done anything bad, doesn't matter. You're going to get arrested because of the color of your skin."
Yeah.
So there's really great undertones of social commentary here, but it's not sledgehammered, and
No, not
it's
at all.
fleeting, but there is an undercurrent, and it's there. And if you're obviously paying attention, you catch it. But I think the beauty of this is that it's interwoven into the larger fabric of the story.
Yeah, and I liked how, like in the beginning, I didn't like any of them.
No.
They're scum. They're mugging this lady for no reason. They're just absolute scum. And by the end of the story, you care about all of them to the point where you're like,
You want them to.
you want them to make it.
Yeah.
You want them to make it, and you're happy when you see some of them do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a lot of them make it out. Well,
Not all of them.
Not all, but it's not like there was only one left.
yeah. No.
Yeah. That's okay. This is from 2011. I feel like we could spoil it. Again, it was a box office flop, but it must have done well on
I think
digital
it
and
definitely has
streaming.
like a cult following, and I think that word of mouth spread that
Yeah.
if you want a good time, if you want to see a good movie, check this out. This is one of the good ones.
I think you actually brought this to my attention. This was nowhere on my radar, I feel like.
I mean, I heard about it, and then I think I saw it like late one night when you were probably asleep, and I was
does
just
that mean?
watching TV late at night. You know
You're always
damn well
asleep.
what it means.
Dare you?
And I think I did mention it to you that,
And then I think
that it
I
was
saw
that it
it
was
to you.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just, like, the first time I saw this film, I was like, where the hell have I been? Why was I asleep at the wheel? I don't think that they did a good job advertising it. And I agree with you. There probably wasn't great distribution on this.
I don't think this was distributed wide release in America,
That's
because
too
I
bad.
never heard about it until it was already
Out
like
of theaters.
done.
Yeah.
It was like something that you heard about on websites where it was just like, yeah, this is good. This is one of the better horror films or genre films of that year. it was like on a year-end list where you'd see it.
Yeah, yeah,
But there really wasn't much discussion about it when it was actually in release.
yeah. I mean, not to get off on a tangent, but it's kind of weird, like this whole thing with streaming now, because it's like, I feel like the studios proactively are hurting these films because they're throwing them up on the streamers probably way too quickly. So there's no incentive to go to a theater to see these
I don't
kind of
know
movies.
because one, there's only so much space to give films wide releases and places where these films could be seen. The theaters, they're going to be like, oh, we got to get the most bang for the buck.
Right.
Is some English alien invasion film whose biggest star at the time was probably Nick Frost?
Yeah.
Is that going to bring people in, or is
Whatever
I don't
Star
know whatever
Wars
the hell
movie.
else
Yeah.
came out at
Yeah.
2011?
Yeah.
But I'm sure there were plenty of blockbusters that year.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
So those are the ones that are going to get it. And I mean, sometimes something will be put on streaming a bit too soon. But I got to be honest, a lot of stuff you would never have seen if the streamers didn't exist.
That's true
Because
too.
streamers
That's true too.
Streamers
so it's kind of a
are
catch-22.
hungry. They are hungry for content, and they will go out and they will buy films that chances are you would never seen. We would never ever have seen Rye Lane
No,
if
never.
Hulu did not have it on their service.
Yeah,
Never.
and I probably wouldn't have watched it if Zach hadn't thrown it up for nomination.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So it's like I said, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. There is an insane amount of content out there.
yes,
There is an insane amount of
Yes.
films that are in production, that are being made, that are being distributed. It's not like when we were young where Jaws was in the theater for 6 months.
right.
It's like you got 3 weeks, and if you're doing good, maybe you'll get 5.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you're getting replaced with the next
the
big
next
thing.
thing.
So a small film like Attack the Block or Rye Lane or whatever.
Talk to me. I'm so pissed that we missed that in the theater.
You're not going to be seeing that in the theater most likely.
Yeah, yeah.
You're going to have to catch it
I
on the
think
stream.
when I
or
was
on
growing
internet.
up at the Alpine, that was it. All That Jazz, the Bob Fosse movie.
What about it?
I think that played for like almost a year.
Jesus.
Yeah, that did well. I think. I'm assuming because it literally played at the Alpine for like a year. It was in the theater at least 8 months.
I remember Return of the Jedi was at the Kingsway for a year.
Forever. Yeah.
I must have seen it like 8 times or something.
Or
I
I
kind
was
of
a
hate
little-
Star Wars now
why?
because they made a mess of the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a lot of their TV shows are good too.
Well, that Ashoka show looks really good.
Ahsoka looks
Yeah,
like it could
but,
be interesting.
like,
Yeah.
Remember what the hell was his name?
Don't say the Book of Boba Fett.
Don't
Yes.
remind
Oh my
Dad.
God, that
Don't
was
remind your father.
terrible. Let's not
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah.
That was hot garbage.
That
was hard garbage.
hot, wet garbage.
But the other show was good.
Mandalorian?
The Mandalorian,
No,
which
no,
we
no.
still haven't seen season 3 of.
The Rogue One character, Caspian. What's his name?
Cassian, but that may as well have been a completely
Different.
separate universe.
Yeah.
There's no laser swords or anything or wizards.
But I like the sort of like political intrigue in
yeah,
that
that's what made it interesting. It
Yeah.
was like Game of Thrones in the Star Wars
universe. Yeah. Yeah. It'll
Were
be
there
interesting.
dragons?
No, there were not.
You,
Not in,
they-
not in
you know
Caspian.
what? The thing that's funny about Star Wars, you can just chuck a dragon in there,
And
it'll
nobody would bat an
nobody
eye.
would bat an eye.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I've already forgotten that by the time the next season comes around, I might have to rewatch the first season.
Or at least watch the recap.
The recap, like The Witcher.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to go around the table and get numbers. I'm going to start with you. What do you think? 1 to 10.
I give this an 8.
An 8. Olive G. 1 to 10.
I'd probably give this like a 9.
A 9.
This was really good.
This was really good. I'm
I'm glad you liked it because
Yeah.
you were like probably the most hesitant to watch it in the beginning. I'm glad it turned you around.
Yeah.
Well, that's because I thought I was watching something else, but I fell asleep. So yeah.
So you're nice and rested after your big power
Big
nap.
Yep.
What about you, Gigi? 1 to 10.
Give it like an 8.5.
I too would give this an 8.5.
All right, I'll give it an 8.5 too.
Yeah, it was sensational. I think originally when you told me about it, not that I don't believe you, but I was just like, oh, okay, whatever.
It's okay. You can say you don't believe me a lot of times when I tell you
No.
something's good.
It's weird. Like, you catch me sometimes in weird times. Like, I remember, like, I still talk about how, like, you were trying to get me to watch Lost, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not really not interested. And you were like, no, you really should watch it. You really should watch it. And the cute thing about you is that you're committed. Like, once you commit to a show, you commit to the show. Mm-hmm. So I think you were watching it, and I sat with you, and I was, like, just completely, like, absorbed afterwards. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then I became a true believer in that show as well. So, but yeah, I mean, this film, kudos to Joe Cornish for writing and directing just such a fun yet thought-provoking piece of cinema. It's really, really, really well done. And again, sometimes not having a budget,
it makes you more creative.
It really does. And it's interesting to see. Yeah, it's interesting to see how filmmakers take that into the real world. And here, I think he did such a gangbuster job. And it's funny because, like, I feel like I've seen stuff since this film, and again, it's not like Disney CG, but it still holds up. And, like, this is now over 10 years old, this film, and it's like I'm still watching that, and I'm still impressed with the practicals on this.
Yeah.
Just a really bang up job. 8.5, 8.5, 8.5, and 9. Absolutely. First off, pay your goddamn writers. Please. We cannot have cool movies like this if you don't pay your writers. And again, this is sensational storytelling. This is not something that's cookie cutter. It's not the du jour vampire meets high school girl nonsense. This is, again,
Are you
like,
talking about Twilight?
Or anything like that. Again, I think just as far as a science fiction piece, as far as social commentary, and just in the art of filmmaking, just telling good stories. Support your artists, support your writers. We can't have great cinema without them. Again, this is Attack the Block from 2011. We saw this on Prime, but you can also check it out on Hulu and Pluto TV, although maybe not because...
Never watched on Pluto.
That comes with a ton of commercials. This clocks in at 1 hour and 28 minutes. This is not a long film, but a really worthwhile investment. And it's rated R for a little bit of violence.
Yeah, some gory bits.
Some gory bits. But, I mean, it's nothing crazy.
Well, hi-hat.
All right, fair enough. But it's not like...
Bro,
I feel like I've seen crazier movies, but...
Yeah, but you know how sensitive some people are.
Some viewers are. Yes, this is true, G. This is true. All right, so that's it from us, and we will bid you all a
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
good night.